We have Ido Brosh moderating the panel. We have Boban, Totovski, Ronen, Guy, Trachtman, Yoav, Sochen, and Yael, Cohen. Please come up.
All right, thank you everyone for joining us today. We don't have a lot of time, but this is a very interesting topic, the rise of esports, electronic sports. We have very interesting speakers today. I'd like to quickly introduce the speakers, and everyone will say a few words about themselves, and we'll begin. Starting, of course, with our esteemed delegate from North Macedonia, the CEO and General Secretary of the International Esports Federation, Mr. Boban Totovski. CEO of Yourgame, the esports production company, Ronen. Professional Counter-Strike player, Guy Trachtman. Senior esports producer and ex-Riot Games, Yoav Sochen. And CEO of Reset Agency, Yael Cohen. Boban, let's start with you, a short intro, and we'll begin.
Well, as Ido mentioned, I'm the General Secretary of the International Esports Federation. Me personally, I've been in esports for more than 20 years now, and working with ISF and making sure that esports is properly developed on grassroots levels throughout the world is something that I call it as a mission of mine, personal. And apparently ISF has risen to 151 countries as members, so we are really close to getting the number that the United Nations have. And as I always say, looking forward that in the next 3 to 5 years, maybe we will be the United Nations of esports and be actually to break a lot of cultural barriers and political obstacles that esports is facing in the last few years. And I believe that we are the platform for it. So looking forward to that happening.
Thank you, Boban. Gil, a few words from you about Yourgame.
Hi. So I'm the CEO of Yourgame. Yourgame started as a community 10 years ago, and we turned into a production company. We took esports, and we try to make esports a conservative sport. We produced the World Championships that occurred in Eilat a few years ago, the ISF Championship. And now we do a lot of projects in schools, and gaming shows and everything that can push the esports forward.
Thank you, Gil. Guy, tell us a little bit about yourself and your achievements in Counter-Strike.
So my name is Guy. I'm 25 years old. I'm a professional CS player. My biggest achievement was with the Team Finest, which is an Israeli organization. We achieved like 19 in the world, I think. And yeah, that's about me.
Yoav?
Hello, everyone. So I'll keep this short so we can get to the content. My name is Yoav. Formerly was an esports producer and organizer in Israel. More recently, worked in Riot Games for the esports department, being responsible for the production management of events such as League of Legends Worlds, MSI, LEC, VCT. Those are for League of Legends and Valorant. And yeah, now I do esports and sports in general.
And finally, yeah.
אני אענה בעברית. היי, קוראים לי יעל, אני מנכ"לית ובעלים משותפת של ריסט, חברת פרסום שמתמחה בעולמות הגיימינג ומחברת חברות מסחריות, חברות גיימינג לקהל היעד האלו.
Amazing. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to everyone and thank you for joining us today. I'd like to start maybe with you, Boban, and this question is tough because we all know that esports is competitive gaming, right? It's the competition with video games, competitions in games like League of Legends, Counter-Strike, FIFA, Fortnite, whatever. But unlike other sports that are governed by a governing body like FIFA and so on, these sports, so to speak, are made by a company and are registered intellectual property. So here's my first question. Who does esports belong to?
That's a simple answer. It belongs to the community. That's actually where the power of esports comes. It's not owned by anybody. Yes, there are publishers. There are publishers here I was just on a panel a few days ago with people from Moontoon and Tencent. They're all publishers, but what we get as ISF is a lot of support from the publishers because we're actually helping them to make sure that their games, their product, their IP reaches community in a healthy and responsible way. Of course, their target is to make money, but also all companies need to be socially responsible and at the same time make sure they nurture the ecosystem where they get their money from and make sure that that system is properly developed, properly structured. And of course, giving them an opportunity to play and compete for their countries, carry their flag. I think this is also a unique opportunity, and until now, I think that majority of the publishers are very supportive of this movement. And as years goes by, and now we see Olympic Esport Games trying to shape up, I think we will see more and more esports into the official sporting ecosystem rather than just in, let's say, the entertainment part.
Thank you. It's an interesting take, one that I definitely feel a connection to. I would like to ask the same question, maybe Yoav. Maybe from the perspective, you worked for an extensive period for Riot Games, which is one of the largest esports game publishers in the world. What would be the view of Riot Games, or of course you cannot speak for them, but what do you believe would be the view of Riot and other game publishers on the questions of who esports belongs to?
Sure. So first of all, yeah, I cannot speak for them or any other publisher, and I think many here in the audience might actually have differing opinions on this. I actually agree with Bob on most points. Esports is driven by the community. It's part of a grassroots activity that in the end does help a game have more player retention. It basically boosts, like, let's think about games like Counter-Strike. They exist for 27 years, and probably if they weren't successful as esports, they wouldn't stick around. So on the one hand, publishers investing in it and creating or at least facilitating it is good, but also they need to be, as Boban said, socially responsible. And it's a lot of responsibility, which not all publishers want to take on themselves. But I do think there needs to be a middle ground where it's partially community-driven, but also with the publishers supporting and somewhat contributing to the regulation of their esports.
I want to ask, as we understand that esports is kind of a transformative content in a way that it is not the game itself that we look and watch, but rather the competition that is played within the game. I want to ask Guy, you are a professional Counter-Strike player and you had an experience on the international stage in Counter-Strike, which is obviously one of the largest esports currently, or ever actually, for the last 30 years. How do you believe esports should look like? Is it a game that is just played competitively, or is it also a sport which is different from just the game itself?
I mean, I think it's a little bit different, but esports is just like kind of like a sport. Like, you know, you play football or you play basketball, and it's like you have to live in it. You know, you cannot like just like play the game for fun and stuff like this at some point, because like at some point when you progress, you get salary, people believe in you, and you have organizations that trust in you, and you have to understand that like it's not a game for fun, you know. So yeah.
Good, and maybe Gil, you can also shed some light on that, because you have also extensive experience building communities from the ground up. How does it look like from a community perspective?
I think we should address it as sport because, let's say basketball, you have the rules, but everybody can go out to the court and play. So there is the NBA, we can match the NBA to the game publishers. They can set the ball diameter, they can set the height of the basket, but the game is the game. They invented it a few years ago, but now it goes on and on. And in order to be pro in the game, you need to train a lot. Not only in the game, you need to do physical training, mental training. You need to, it's not just play and get better, you need to go and look on your records and see your mistakes and how to be better next time. And you play and you play 10 hours a day, and that's it. It's a professional thing. And the excitement that you might have in let's say, a soccer game, you have 90 minutes. Now, in the last few months, now there is 4 or 5 goals a game. It's 90 minutes game, so it's a highlight every 15 minutes. And in Counter-Strike, the highlight is coming every minute, the tension, the action, and it's really good. If you go as a crowd, it's much better than the vibe is much better than a soccer game.
I think this is a very good insight that is not so obvious. And before we move on to the next subject, I'd like to ask Yael, because we spoke about the sport aspect of it and the community aspect of it, but obviously esports has a lot of influencer marketing aspect of it, and Reset is a leader in that field. My question to you is, how do you see the role of streamers that are doing co-hosting of esports tournaments and the influencers, not necessarily in the gaming world, but specifically in the esports world?
אני שוב אענה בעברית. ככה, בגדול, שחקני אי-ספורט הם טלנטים לכל דבר. הם חלק מהאקוסיסטם של יצירת תוכן. כמו שכולנו יודעים, אי-ספורט זה נדבך של תוכן מתוך גיימינג, שזה נדבך מאוד מאוד גדול. וזה ממש חלק בלתי נפרד מכל האקוסיסטם של אי-ספורט, יוצרי תוכן, שהם בעצם גם שחקני אי-ספורט, משתמשים ביצירת תוכן גם להגדיל את הקהילה שלהם, כמו שגיל אמר, שזה נתמך בעיקר על ידי קהילות. אז בעזרת יצירת תוכן הם גם מפיצים את עצמם, מגדילים את עצמם כטלנט, ובו זמנית גם מגדילים את העולמות האי-ספורט ואת הקהילות ואת כל העולם הזה. ובעצם הקושי היחידי, עם כל הפלוסים שיש, הקושי היחידי הוא רק למצוא, אני אומרת רק, זה לא ממש פשוט, אבל למצוא את הטלנט הנכון שמעביר את הערכים הנכונים ואת התוכן הנכון ולהתחבר אליו.
It's definitely a challenge. I want to talk now about something that I think is very interesting. Sure, please.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add on that. Just an interesting metric when we were working on the League of Legends and Valorant international that's a nice sign. Championships. So we had a main broadcast where people viewed over Twitch, over YouTube, but the actual highest viewership and highest engagement broadcasts were the influencers who did get some sort of permission to co-host or co-stream, like an unofficial broadcast of those competitions in French, in Spanish, and whatever, and that had 10 times more than the, let's call it, generic company, corporate-driven broadcast that we were doing. And I think, yeah, the power of co-casting and influencers is something that ties to game marketing itself and esports and ties it very nicely together.
All right, we don't have a lot of time left, and there is one thing that I thought would be very interesting for this audience specifically, and this is the esports Olympics. If you don't know, the International Olympic Committee has announced that in 2027, there will be an esports Olympics, an official Olympic event only for esports and virtual games. And this game would be, these games, we don't know yet actually which games would be featured in this event, but we know it's going to be 2027 and we know it's going to be in Saudi Arabia. And of course, the Israeli Esports Association is working with the Israeli Olympic Committee to send the team there. I want to ask first, Boban, what can you tell us about this event and what would be, if anything, the role of ISF?
Well, we do have a lot of discussions, especially with the World Anti-Doping Agency, to which ISF is the official signatory for 12 years. Because if it is an official Olympic event, it needs to follow the sporting rules and regulations. So basically, it will be divided in three competitions. One will be sports simulations, one will be virtual sports, and the third one will be esports. So there are suggestions, but not all official titles are still selected. Basically, I think that among the communities, everybody is aware which are the most famous sports sims, which are the most famous VR versions of the sport, and those will be most probably managed by the sporting federation. So, for example, virtual taekwondo is not going to be done by the Israeli Esports, it's going to be done by the Taekwondo Federation, etc. for all other virtual or sim sports. For the official esport titles, nothing has been announced. Of course, there is a recommendation, We can all see that games like Rocket League, which now, is it a FIA game, is it a FIFA game, or is it an esports game? It has cars, it has a football, so we'll see, but apparently it's a football game. There will be some strategies for sure, and the biggest question is the first-person shooters, are they going to be there? Because they are being treated as violent games. We keep saying people that the games are not violent. I'm sure that boxing is more violent than an esport game, even if it's Counter-Strike or Valorant. So maybe there will be some esports included. That needs to be done in 2027. So hopefully this year we are expecting around the end of August, beginning of September, more official communication on that. And it is a good milestone. No matter how it looks, no matter what it is a good milestone for esport because it gets officialized in a way.
All right, I want to ask Guy, do you think that esports players from traditional esports like Counter-Strike would be excited to play in the esports Olympics, or would it be just another tournament?
No, 100%. I mean, when you represent your country, it's like one of the biggest things, especially in our country. So I think it's super excited if it would be a possibility. So yeah, I think it should be really good.
Amazing. We don't have a lot of time left, but I still want to ask Gil, from the perspective of a tournament organizer, what do you think would be the role of production companies? Would it be some production company like ESL or Blast or whatever doing the competition in the esports Olympic, or would it make sense for the IOC to do it themselves? How do you think it's going to work?
I think that there is enough work for everyone, because once it will be on the Olympic, there will be thousands of competitions, of sub-competitions, because in the virtual area, in the digital area, you can do anything. You don't need a court, don't need a stadium, and that's why we can also pick the best. We can do for one game, we can do a qualifier for 2,000 players, and if we have done it in taekwondo or tennis, it would require a court, a net, and here we can do a lot of things in parallel. And there will be enough work, and there will be a lot of players competing in it. And I hope it will be around esports and not only virtual sports, like e-cycling. Because it's like chess. You need to think and you need to work hard.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. I know it's been short. I didn't get to ask everything, but we do have another presentation coming. I do want to say to you guys, big thank you for participating. Yael, Yoav, Guy, Gil, and Boban, of course. And I would be remiss to mention that this session was sponsored by the Israeli Sports Association, which is hosting a Beat the Pro challenge right outside for everyone to try and participate in a fun Counter-Strike match against a pro player. So you can definitely visit us there. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.